Sanskrit is the vibrational practice that emulates in our verbal capacity spoken sound. It's the closest thing in spoken sound to what were discerned as the vibrational elements of the universe and forces in the universe. So we're replicating that when we chant the mantra. When you put a mantra together into words or phrases, what you are experiencing or what you're recreating the vibration of is a pattern of those elements, a pattern of those forces. So you start to experience qualities of the sacred, right? And that's what the mantra expresses in sound form. And usually when I explain it that way to people, people go, oh, yeah, I'll give it a try.
What if the best chapter of your life hasn't even begun yet? What lies within you is the power to live brighter, bolder, and truer than ever before. So welcome to Vivatude, where caregiving, connections, and career come into balance, and where your vitality, vision, and voice shines through. Because the revolution isn't out there, it's already within you. Welcome to Vivatude.
Welcome back to Vivatude. We are back with Rebecca Prien, who is sharing some insights with us about the ancient practice of Sanskrit mantra. Now, I was raised conservative Christian here in the United States, a suburb of Chicago. Something like this practice is something I never would have considered. And as I mentioned in a previous segment, when I read Rebecca's description of how and why this works, it's the first time I was able to say, oh, I get it now. But Rebecca, in your experience, what are some of the obstacles? What are some of the reasons that people might say, oh, I don't want to try that. That's just too out there for me?
I think it's just what you said. I think it's unfamiliarity. It is still very much outside of our Western culture. And one of the ways that it is outside of our Western culture is that we tend to, even if we are not a practicing Christian, we tend to have a one God default. Does that make sense? Like we tend to default, even subconsciously, to a Judeo Christian one God. And the Hindu pantheon, which is where Sanskrit mantra comes from, and it is the pantheon in which the tradition in which I practice is, appears to have a multi-god phenomenon, right? And so people associate that with the mantra practice because those deities, those god names, show up in the mantras because they are actually one and the same. So why is that? Right? And how can people understand what the mantra really is? As I said, the Sanskrit is the vibrational practice that emulates in our verbal capacity spoken sound. It's the closest thing in spoken sound to what were discerned as the vibrational elements of the universe and forces in the universe. So we're replicating that when we chant the mantra. When you put a mantra together into words or phrases, what you are experiencing or what you're recreating the vibration of is a pattern of those elements, a pattern of those forces. So you start to experience qualities of the sacred, right? And that's what the mantra expresses in sound form. And usually when I explain it that way to people, people go, oh, yeah, I'll give it a try. So I think it's the unfamiliarity and the sense of, I don't know what I'm chanting to. And so what am I doing? Right?
Yeah. That was it. That was it for me. I was like,
What
I
am
don't,
I really doing
yeah,
here? What
I don't
you're
want.
really doing, yes, what
Yeah.
you're really doing is engaging with a language, a vibrational language of the universe. That's what you're doing. You're calling upon that and you're using it in a way that your own voice can engage with. So it's energy practice through your own voice, and it's spiritual practice through the energetic vibration of your own voice. And there really is no difference between that and the names of the pantheon in Hinduism. They
When you
are
say,
one and the same. And this is
ah,
they're one and the same. They are the vibrational elements and forces of the universe.
can you tell me
The
more about
name,
that? Yeah. So,
yeah. So there's, and again, if people are interested, there's a whole chapter in the book about how this works or what this is. Um, so each of the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet vibrates at the frequency of a particular element or force of the universe, right? When we put those together into words, we're expressing patterns of that vibration, right? So heroism, release, transformation, destruction, birth, creation, sustenance, etc. Generosity, prosperity, abundance, beauty, all of those are held in a sound vibration. And I know that can sound really odd, but when you start practicing, you start realizing that you have a felt sense of what those things actually are. It's kind of like analogous to your feelings. You know how, like, you know what sadness feels like, and you
mhm,
know it's different than anger,
mhm,
right? Every force that operates in the universe and exists outside of us and inside of us is exactly the same way. And you have a felt sense of it because you're already aware of it. And
right.
what you're doing with the mantra practice is you're activating that felt sense of awareness within yourself. And you're allowing yourself to attune to that vibrational felt sense rather than the felt sense of the pattern and operation of your habitual thoughts and feelings. And the vibration of the mantra inside you, your familiarity with it, and the actual vibration that happens in your body, your felt sense of it, begins over time to become stronger than the pattern that you've been experiencing. And you start to now associate your identity with that rather than with your habituated thoughts and feelings. But I didn't answer the question you asked. So back to these words. So the words are in Sanskrit are vibrational sound expression of the patterns and qualities of the sacred. And so that is what a name of a deity is, right? So
Okay.
Rama, we'll take my part of my name, Rama, right? Rama is a heroine in one of the primary epic myths in, I think, all branches of Hinduism. Rama is made up of the energy of fire, the energy of limitation, and holds the qualities of focus, ease, action, dharma, meaning being on purpose with the action that you take. That is what it is. Now, you could say, oh, I'm praying to Rama as if Rama is out there somewhere. Or you could say, oh, I'm chanting to cultivate a relationship with these qualities within myself so that I can know them, recognize them, and act in accordance with them. Because that's who I know myself to be.
That is powerful. And that reminds me of the science of cymatics, right? With
Hmm.
it's taking, so for those of you who aren't familiar with it, you've seen the kids' science experiments. I did this with my kids in school. We had we created a drum surface, and we put iron filings on that, and then you put a speaker under it, and you vibrate a certain sound, and the vibrations shake up the surface of the drum, and those iron filings move around, and they form very coherent patterns, because sound is creative. Sound moves, it moves energy, it is a vibration. And one of the things that I appreciate that you wrote about in your book is that, we could go to a healer. We could have somebody give us some sort of energy healing, and that's nice. It has an effect for a while, but by ourselves initiating the action with the intention of chanting a sacred mantra and bringing our entire body into attunement, that's a great word, using the sound to change our vibration, then we are actually involved in that process of change. And there's something really essential about that you wrote about. And I was like, whoa, okay, now I understand it in a way I never did before. So can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, it allows us to cultivate, a level of awareness and discernment about one, our state of being, two, what is true for us in any moment. And so then how to act in the moment with clarity and conviction and a sense of, or from a state of centeredness. Um, and it allows us to actually change the pattern because we have to be engaged with the pattern while we're doing it. That's the difference. I don't know about you, but I get all kinds of healing modalities too, and I love them. But I
Mhm.
also am inclined to pretty much zone out while it's happening, right?
Mm,
It's it's a great place for relaxation. And it
mm,
doesn't mean you're not receiving more than you're aware of in the relaxation. But what it does mean is that your conscious mind is not also engaged in the transformation. And so it's not consciously being trained and changed at the same time. And so you're less likely to have awareness the next time the pattern comes up, both that it's happening and the capacity to say, okay, stop, pause, I can change this. So it's really powerful. And I know we also do we have a moment to talk about
yeah.
karmic knots?
Yeah, we
Because we
got to get
haven't
into
talked
that.
about that. And we promised we would talk, we promised people we would talk about that. Probably
We
should talk
did.
about that first.
Yeah. No, let's take a break and come back to karmic
Okay.
knowledge, because that's huge. I mean, so we've been talking about the kind of the mechanics of how
Right. But not so much
we.
the why.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So we're going to come back and we are going to dive into how these practices actually, like what they do,
Yeah, let's talk about what they do.
what they do, why they do it. All right. We'll be right back.
And thanks for listening to Vivatude. 4 hosts, one each week. We help you revivatude your next chapter, because purpose, passion, and prosperity isn't out there. They're already within you. Brighter, bolder, truer. Vivatude.